Then my husband Albert, who could no longer make any logical decisions, said this, which shocked me.
Molly, please quit your job and take care of Mom.
Huh?
I want you to help and look after Mom.
Are you being serious? Honestly speaking, I think you're making a big deal, you know.
What the hell are you talking about? This is a big deal for my mom, okay? You have to take care of her.
No, so I heard that it's fine to just hire a helper during the day for a little while until she starts her rehabilitation and gets used to it. But despite my calm explanation, my husband would not listen to me at all.
Well, I didn't think you were that heartless.
My name is Molly. I am 27 years old and I work as a nurse at a hospital. I recently got married to my husband, Albert. I met my husband through a dating app, and he's kind, looks clean, and has a good job and a steady income. Nurses have night shifts, and our days off and shifts are not fixed, but my husband is understanding and shares the housework with me. For these reasons, I think I have found a really nice man. We were living a nice married life, supporting each other in this way, but about 6 months into our marriage, a certain problem arose. It was when we visited Albert's parents on New Year's Day. We lived not far from his parents' house, but because of my work, my husband and I rarely had the same days off, so we had not been able to visit them since we got married. My husband also told me,
Well, we don't have any strict family tradition that the wife has to always come over, so you don't have to worry about it.
So I took that for my advantage. So I didn't show up to Albert's family gatherings, even once from the time I got married until the New Year's. I decided to go to Albert's parents' house because I thought it would be impolite to not show up, even at the New Year's. I was a little nervous, wondering what kind of looks they would give me, but unexpectedly Albert's parents, Sandra and Todd, was actually treating me normal. And they actually greeted me warmly, saying, "I'm glad you came." I was really glad and relieved. My husband was right. My in-laws may not be the type of people who are really sensitive about family ties. But that thought was shattered in an instant. When I went to the kitchen to help my mother-in-law, Sandra, she suddenly gave me a really cold look. "Are you sure you can even cook?" "Huh? Nurses are all about work, aren't they?" "I have the image that most of them are like men, and they can't do any house chores." I was single for quite some time, so I'm pretty used to cooking for myself. "Oh, is that so? But I don't really want to eat what you cooked." "Then should I not help you out here?" "Do as you please. But if you don't help me around here, I tell all my neighbors that you're such an uncaring wife." I really couldn't believe my ears. Is it possible for someone like Sandra to say such terrible things? I thought maybe Sandra was angry at me because I didn't visit her and her husband very often after my marriage with Albert. If that's the case, then my husband wasn't right after all, huh? After that, I thought that I had made a bad impression to Sandra and tried desperately to make up for it. I helped with the cooking, poured drinks for both Sandra and Todd as soon as they finished their drinks, and took the initiative to wash all the dishes. I tried to anticipate what my in-laws wanted next and acted accordingly. I think I was so fully engaged physically and mentally that I could hardly concentrate on eating what I had on my plate. Despite that, my husband was happily drinking and sleeping around, being very oblivious to my situation. We walked over to Albert's parents' place, knowing that Albert might drink today, so it was fine that we could just take a taxi back home. But how could he be normal about leaving his own wife alone with his parents and just get drunk and sleep around? Seeing him being like that way, I felt like he didn't care much for me and began to feel like I couldn't trust much as I did compared to before. If I were to trust my husband's senses regarding the relationship with his parents, it could also make Sandra and Todd's impression towards me even worse. I had to deal this issue on my own. Since then, I had made an effort to get to know Sandra and Todd as much as possible. I took my husband to visit his parents in the daytime about once a month on weekends when I could get a day off. And every time I would bring them sweets or pastries that both Sandra and Todd liked. I also called Sandra and Todd as often as possible without bothering them, asking about their health and current conditions. Personally, I think I was able to build a reasonable relationship with my in-laws. In fact, Todd praised me behind my back for being a good wife to my husband. But unfortunately, Sandra was different. Her attitude toward me was the same as when I first visited their house. And she kept on bullying me, which never changed. And one day, I went to pick up a suitcase, which was used for a business trip that my husband had left at his parents' house and forgotten to bring back. My husband said he would pick it up himself on his way home from work. But since I was on my day off, I decided to go get it. My husband told me that he had called Sandra to let her know about it. So I headed to my in-laws' house without saying anything. As I was walking near my in-laws' house, I could hear Sandra's voice. Apparently, she was talking to her neighbor. It seemed like Sandra was happily talking about me. Ugh, our son's wife, is really useless. Well, I have to admit, I didn't quite like her since I met her from the beginning. I was in shock when she said that. So from the beginning, Sandra did not really welcome me or accept me being Albert's wife. In other words, no matter how hard I tried, Sandra's impression of me would never improve. Knowing this, I instantly began to feel that I don't really care about making a good impression to my in-laws anymore. I had done everything for Sandra. But if she didn't like me to begin with, then there was no need to care anymore. Since then, I have stopped visiting my in-laws on my own. When my husband visited his parents, sometimes I went with him, and sometimes I didn't. And like that, I began to prioritize my feelings. But of course, I did not suddenly cut off my relationship with them. That would have raised a few red flags for them. I tried to keep my involvement with them to the bare minimum, like giving them seasonal gifts and showing up Thanksgivings and New Year's. And for a while, we all lived peacefully, maintaining the relationship we all had. But then something unexpected happened. Sandra had an accident. Fortunately, an ambulance arrived immediately, and so Sandra's life was saved. But she was left with a slight paralysis on the right side of her body. Since Sandra is right-handed, even a slight paralysis would cause some difficulty in her daily life. Until she gets used to it, it will be difficult for her to do any house chores. But Todd is still healthy, and if he hires a helper to support Sandra only during the daytime, and for Todd to do the house chores after work, there will be no problem. I didn't think it was a big deal, but my husband was different. When Albert heard that his mom had an accident, he was in a panic. And that much I could understand. But after that, when he heard that she was left with a slight paralysis on the right side of her body, he was quite upset and panicking a lot. Albert was saying things like,
Mom's disabled now?
and he was very upset and seemed to be unable to calm down. Then my husband, Albert, who could no longer make any logical decisions, said this, which shocked me.
Molly, please quit your job and take care of Mom.
Huh?
I want you to help and look after Mom.
Are you being serious? Honestly speaking, I think you're making a big deal, you know.
What the hell are you talking about? This is a big deal for my mom, okay? You have to take care of her.
No, so I heard that's fine to just hire a helper during the day for a little while until she starts her rehabilitation and gets used to it. But despite my calm explanation, my husband would not listen to me at all.
Well, I didn't think you were that heartless.
Excuse me?
Normally, the husband's wife is supposed to take care of the husband's parents, you know.
I was so stunned and speechless. No, normally you should take care and support your own parents. And at this moment is when I finally understood that Albert was exactly like his own mom, Sandra. You just don't want any of the hassles and troubles, so you ask the others to do it for you. That's who Albert and Sandra was. As I was refusing the request from my husband, Sandra also called me. Molly, please, just take care of me. As I told Albert already, you also have Todd, so I don't think there is any problem. Well, my husband can't do any house chores, so there's no point in expecting him to do it. And I don't want to hire a helper. Helpers cost money. What, does she think that I do it for free? Does she think that she's allowed to use me because I'm Albert's wife? You've got to be kidding me. I felt my anger rising up more and more. No matter what you say, I will not do it. I won't quit my work, and I won't take care of you. What the? You better be ashamed of yourself. How could you be so cold and horrible? I mean, with all due respect, why are you asking me then? You didn't even like me from the beginning, did you? Excuse me? I actually heard you talking to one of your neighbors. And you were saying how you didn't like me from the beginning. My goodness, were you eavesdropping? It doesn't even matter if you heard it or not. So why do you make me, whom you hate, take care of you, but not Albert, your adorable son? Wouldn't it be better for Albert to quit his job to take care of you? Instead of having me, whom you hate, take care of you. Well, that's because Albert doesn't have to quit his job. Besides, I don't want to ask my son to take care of me because it might be a hassle for him. So, you don't feel sorry for me at all, or feel that you're causing me any trouble when I'll be quitting my own job and taking care of you? Well, that's... Alright, I understand very well. I will not take care of you, and I will not quit my job. And I will quit being a family member with you all. I beg your pardon? I will divorce Albert and become a complete stranger to you all. What? You're abandoning me? You always tormented me by bullying me as Albert's wife, but don't come to me for help only when it suits you. I don't want anything to do with you and Albert anymore. No way! I said that and hung up the phone. Then I confronted my husband with the divorce papers when he came home from work. He said,
Why?
but I didn't want to explain anymore, so I said, why don't you ask your mother? And began to pack my bags. Before leaving home, I threatened my husband that if he did not agree to divorce, my lawyer would send a content-certified letter to the company he works for. And finally, I received a notice that my husband and I were complete strangers. After that, I heard that Albert and his family didn't really have any good life after that. Sandra wanted to ask her own son to take care of her, but unfortunately, he was transferred to a rural area due to work. And her husband cannot do any house chores at all. Therefore, her husband has apparently abandoned looking after Sandra and doing any house chores from the beginning. Nevertheless, Todd would say that he would have a helper take care of Sandra only during the day, since having a helper would cost a lot of money, and like that, Sandra is only taken care of by a helper during the day, and there is no one at all to help her at evening. And because of this, she has been peeing on herself frequently, or she is not able to eat dinner properly, and Sandra has become mentally distressed and has begun to be very antisocial. After telling me what has happened, Albert would still ask me to help Sandra out, and I would say only one thing: you should quit your job and support her, and hung up the phone. I then blocked my ex-husband's number. I am now a divorcee, but my job is stable, and I am not depressed at all. In fact, I think it was a good experience for me to find my next partner. If I find someone I want to marry next, I will try to get to know their parents as much as possible before marrying him and see if we can build a good relationship. Since I am still in my 20s, I will not give up on love and work, and I will continue to enjoy myself and aim higher and higher. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.